All right, here we go. There's the camera. That's where I want to be looking. I already did a Ben Grimm video. This is a video about Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four. Notes on how to play him, and notes on what I would do with his history to bring him into the MCU. The key to Ben and Reed and the rest of the key to bringing in any character from an adaptation like this is to stay true to the essence of the character, who they are, why they are, how they got to be who they are. With both Reed and Ben, they were heroes before they were superheroes. Ben was a Marine fighter pilot during World War II in the original comic, and Reed was a member of OSS during World War II. Both of them worked with Nick Fury during World War II. So we're not going to go with, in the MCU, we're not going to go with another World War II storyline. Explaining their ages would be too hard. I would have it set modern day. I would have Reed Richards as since he used to be a secret agent, I would have him be a secret agent as a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. I have a whole storyline with Reed. I don't want to give it all away. But he's dismissed from S.H.I.E.L.D. in disgrace. He's also the person who develops this is even before he goes to college. He's a kid. He's got access to high technology, alien technology as a child because his father worked on the Tesseract. And I have a few key ideas for this. But I'm not sure how much I want to reveal right now on the internet. But anyway. So Reed was a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. He leaves S.H.I.E.L.D. in disgrace. Because he was the guy who worked on the Tesseract after his father died, he's the one who was able to make the Hydra weapons that we see remake Hydra weapons, the ones that we see in the first Avengers movie. The ones that the Council had planned on using instead of the Avengers to fight off any alien threats. So the Council from the Avengers and Captain America Civil War does not want to lose Reed. He's done something that they feel he needs to be dismissed from S.H.I.E.L.D. for, but they don't want him dead because he's the guy who can build Hydra weapons and understands the Tesseract. So they're not quite willing. They just give him a burn notice, freeze all of his assets, and send him out into the world. This would also allow us to do cameos and bring in Coulson and Black Widow and Hawkeye and all the rest of the S.H.I.E.L.D. people, including Nick Fury. Reed blames Nick Fury for getting kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and for freezing his assets. So that will give us an opportunity to have a very antagonistic relationship between Nick Fury and Reed, which will also in turn, because he doesn't like Nick Fury, when Nick Fury approaches him after the Fantastic Four becomes the Fantastic Four, Reed calls him Nicholas. He doesn't call him Nick. He calls Nick Fury. He calls him Nicholas. And as we know from Captain Marvel, sorry. I love the Chris Claremont storyline of Ms. Marvel back in the 80s. And that was Carol Danvers. It was brilliant. Anyway, it was outselling Superman at the time. So anyway, we know from the Captain Marvel movie that Nick Fury, only goes by Nick Fury. Everybody calls him Nick Fury. So Reed calls him Nicholas, and when he doesn't react, even though, total poker face on Reed, he doesn't say anything. The man's an expert S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. When Nick Fury doesn't react to being called Nicholas, Reed chalks that up. There's something wrong with Nick Fury here. There's an issue here. Because it should be the Skrull Nick Fury who approaches him, who doesn't necessarily know how to react when somebody doesn't call him Nick, instead calls him Nicholas. There should be that discrepancy there should be played upon. Anyway, gets kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's about 24 to 26, probably around 24, goes to college. And that's where he meets Ben Grimm. That's where he meets Susan Storm. Susan Storm is probably 16-ish. And Ben is about 18, maybe 19. Ben's there on a Navy ROTC scholarship for the Marines because the Marines are a department of the Navy. And if you ever tell a Marine that, they're going to say, we're the Department of the Navy. We're the men's department. I swear the military runs on old jokes. So anyway, Reed and Ben are roommates. They're put together. Reed is a walk-on for the football team. Ben is also a walk-on tryout for the football team. And the two of them become college football stars. And Ben as a receiver, Reed as a quarterback. And the two of them end up getting kicked off the team senior year, benched or something, because while all this is going on, the Shield is keeping track of Reed. So you've got, if we did a history of this, or if we talked about this, you'd see, Black Widow's there keeping an eye on him, and Coulson's there keeping an eye on him, and Hawkeye, and all the rest of them. And because of that, there's adventures that they have during college. And I haven't mapped them all out. I'm just saying that in general, we can fill that in. And one of those adventures ends up in a bar fight where Reed and Ben get suspended for being in a bar fight. The cover story is it's bar fight. In reality, they probably stopped some kind of criminal enterprise. But it was a bar fight. And so they sit out the last half of their senior year. Ben goes on to, now this has almost no impact on his Narazzi scholarship because the Marines get into bar fights. Ben goes off into the Marines. Reed at this point has no money. He's engaged because his assets were frozen. He's now engaged to Sue Storm, who is younger than Ben, because there's, at most, we want a 10-year difference in their age. We don't want any more than that. I'm thinking like 6 to 8, but at least 6, at most 10. So he's engaged to Sue. He has no money. He wants to do his own experiment stuff he's been working on since he left S.H.I.E.L.D., since before he was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. He wants to build the engine that they were trying to build in Captain Marvel. And he knows, I can't reveal all that. I have ideas on how he knows how to build that engine. And so he tries to get into the NFL. He is not chosen in the draft, or he's a last round draft pick, one of the two. So he ends up with a 3 to 4 year contract. And he's a third string quarterback. He's just on the bench. He's worked out with the team. They know he's good, but he's less impressive in practice than he is on the field. Once he gets on the field, for whatever reason, there's a couple injuries, and boom, suddenly you're bringing in your third string quarterback, and he gets on the field and they win the game. And then they keep playing Reed. They work him into the rotation for whatever team it is. We can go with a real NFL team like the Jets, New York Jets, or because he's got to stay in New York, or we can come up with a team for Marvel, an imaginary team. Depends on what kind of deals, merchandising deals you can work out. Product placement. We love product placement. We love merchandising. It's how we've paid to make these wonderful movies and stories that are part of our cultural zeitgeist. So anyway, as I digress, this is where Reed gets the nickname Mr. Fantastic, because he's this amazing quarterback. He's like, Reed, Mr. Fantastic Richards. I can see the announcers saying that. Anyway, so he's got the quarterback thing. He leaves after his contract's up. He has a couple $1 million under his belt. He starts using that to fund his experiments. It's a whole thing with him and Ben going out on these crazy adventures, and Sue coming with them once in a while when she can get away from work. And eventually he builds the engine. He successfully builds after S.H.I.E.L.D. is dismantled in Captain America's, not Civil War. I've been saying Civil War, but it's not. It's Winter Soldier. In Captain America, Winter Soldier, S.H.I.E.L.D. is dismantled. And after that, Reed starts doing his projects in earnest. That should be right around the time that he's getting out of the NFL. He builds the engine, and the Fantastic Four's flight into space is not into the negative zone, but it is to use this engine. And they have a space adventure. And as they're coming back with their engine that will... So, okay, you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. You know that most of these advanced civilizations here travel by popping through warp gates. And these are either naturally occurring phenomena or artificial warp gates. I'd lean toward natural phenomena, but they don't tell us. And they don't need to tell us. That's not the most important thing. The important thing is that, we'll get to that in a second. Asgardians use the Rainbow Bridge to go almost anywhere in the universe. They're one of the most technologically advanced civilizations in the galaxy, in the cosmos, in the universe, whatever you want to call it. All of those things mean different things, by the way, and I know what they mean. But anyway, Reed's jump drive would allow him to go anywhere in the universe without using a jump drive. Reed's Tesseract powered drive would allow him to go anywhere in the universe without using a jump drive like the Guardians of the Galaxy use. That's huge. So remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where Rocket and Yondu had to take 162 jumps or whatever it was to get to Ego's planet, but Ego is the planet. So to catch up with the rest of the Guardians, they had to take 162 jumps in it. It really did a number on them. Reed would be able to go anywhere in the galaxy, anywhere in the cosmos, because it's a Tesseract-powered drive. And yeah, the Tesseract is gone by now, but it's not. The Infinity Gems were destroyed by Thanos. I know, but Infinity Gems are just a way to control that energy. They're not producers of that energy, of each one being a controller of a different aspect of reality, but reality is still here. So if you can find a way to capture that energy, like in a battery, like, I don't know, for hydro weapons, which I just said 2 minutes ago, Reed rebuilt the hydro weapon, so he should theoretically be able to create a battery. There's a lot more about the theory behind the Infinity Gems that I'm not going into right now. So anyway, Reed builds the jump drive. They jump to another planet. We can talk about which planet it's supposed to be. Then he jumps back. On the jump back, they're pulled out of this by Galactus. To bring Galactus into the MCU, he should be coming towards Earth in his own slow way, because Galactus is not in a hurry, because there's been multiple uses of the Infinity Gems on planet Earth or near Earth. And because of that, that has attracted his attention and brought him towards Earth. That makes sense. Even if it doesn't, I think that's I hope it makes sense. That would be how I would bring Galactus in and why I would bring Galactus in. So anyway, and more importantly, Terrax the Tamer. It's while they're pulled out of their jump by Galactus that Galactus infuses them with energy, that their powers come from an interaction with Galactus. I really like that idea. It harkens back to the whole Steve Englehart tying up the Fantastic Four storylines right at the end of his run. Yeah. So they come back to Earth. Their bodies start changing on that. So they're pulled out for a jump for a second. They see Galactus, and Ben hits the jump button again. They're hit by an energy wave. Ben hits the jump button again because he's the pilot. And boom, they jump back to Earth, and Tesseract back to Earth, however you want to put it. And while they're doing that, when they crash because they're all changing, their bodies are all changing, the craft is destroyed. And that's the backstory. All of that should just be mentioned in a reference. I don't want to do an origin movie about this. The movie itself, the first movie, should be about the Skrull invasion of Earth and the Skrulls attempting to take over Earth. A secret invasion, leading into secret invasion. Their first real villain for the Fantastic Four, I would argue, should be the Skrulls, with Reed leading the charge. I hope that makes sense. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. Please tell your friends. Tell anybody. I'd love to actually get a chance to present this to Marvel. All right. Have a great day.